Hey Mom, while I'm recording, do you mind making some tea?
Yes. Tea.
Yay! Thank you, Mommy B. You're the best. We all love you.
Love you too.
Give a thumbs up if you love Mama B. Okay, hello, hi, welcome to another video here on my channel. This is another classic. Molly sits and chats and tells a story. My cat probably meows. My dog probably wanders around with his clip-cloppy nails on the hardwood floor. It's just gonna be a fun, chill time, and I'm excited to have you here. If you have not officially joined the Killer Bee family by subscribing, you should do so right now. It's totally free, and you can see my uploads twice a week, Tuesdays and Fridays, almost every single week at 12:30 PST. Also, hit that notification bell so that you actually get notified when I post. You know, I feel like for a long time, my channel kind of either hyper-focused on my blindness or videos that had nothing to do with my blindness. And there's a lot of other wonderful, magical things that happen in this messed up little body of mine that I think are important to talk about, to raise awareness, to maybe make people feel less alone. Because I know that I have briefly in another video, I once mentioned having this blood clotting disorder, and it's extremely rare, and I've never heard of it, and I didn't know anybody who had it. And somebody in the comment section of my video was like, I also have that. And I was like, oh my god, really? And it's literally, this blood clotting disorder is more rare than my eye disease. Yeah, I managed to get multiple rare diseases, so that's pretty cool.
1 in a million, or Molly. 1 in a million.
I think probably 1 in many millions, Neve.
I think so too, yeah.
I thought I'd just sit down and tell you about the time when I was completely accidentally diagnosed with a rare blood clotting disorder. I'm not gonna say changed my life, because nothing bad has happened, but certainly changed my life in terms of things that I need to be aware of and think about, and yeah, just how I live more so has been affected versus having actual problems associated with the disorder. Ever since I was 6 months old, I've been going to Sick Kids Hospital, which is a hospital that specializes in children. I've been to their neurology clinic, their ophthalmology clinic, their gynecology clinic, and their thrombosis clinic. So I've been around a few wards, you know? And I was having a lot of gynecological problems. I just had very, very, very bad periods. I've talked about it in this video where I talk about my personal experience as a blind woman coping with my period. I used to have very bad periods. And so I sought the help of a gynecologist, and because I was already within the sick kids sphere, I just went to a sick kids gynecologist. And when I went, they decided to run a very extensive battery of tests. I believe I got 11 or 12 vials of blood taken, full vials, and that was a lot. I almost passed out. I've gotten blood taken frequently since I was 6 months old and started going to the hospital, so getting blood work is not new for me, but that was a lot. I remember when I went in, they were wow, they're really testing the full scope. They were testing me for, oh my god, what's that? What's the condition that,
Which one?
the condition that Selena Gomez has?
Lupus?
Lupus.
Yeah.
They were testing me for lupus, Lyme disease. They were just testing, honestly, so much stuff they were testing for, and thankfully it all came back negative. What they were actually testing for all came back negative. And in the meantime, while they were getting that blood work done, they wanted to put me on a birth control pill to help at least try to regulate my period, because I was very irregular. And I had previously been on, I believe, only 1 birth control prior, and it did not go well for me at all. Now, I am somebody who personally has a very sensitive body. I'm very sensitive to foods, and I'm very sensitive to medications. That's just what's up in here. I have irritable bowel syndrome. That's a different story for a different day. I'm just very sensitive to what I put in my body. It sucks. I very much wish that wasn't the case. I'm very envious of people who can just eat whatever they want and take whatever medicine they want, and it doesn't really affect them, or it only simply does what it's meant to do, because that's not often my case. I'm often the person who gets like the very rare side effect. Like you look at a list of side effects and I'm usually in the like extremely rare category. When I went on birth control previously, which had just been through my family doctor, my entire face, like all the skin on my face, I have a normal skin type. It's not oily, it's not dry, it's not a combination. I am that person who literally has normal skin. And it like went bone dry and all started cracking, like all over my face was just cracking. It was horrendous. It was so painful. It was so uncomfortable. And of course, my doctor was like, you need to come off of that. And so that was at that point where we decided like, okay, I'm not gonna go on birth control again. We're gonna see a specialist. But the specialist recommended this very specific pill. She was like, this is a really good one. And there was a reason she like specifically was picking this pill, but I can't remember why. I mean, this was when I was 16 or 17 and I'm 27. It's a long time ago. I started taking the pill, went and got the blood test, and pretty much immediately when I started taking this pill, it was June. I lived in a city that got very hot in the summer. So it was June, it was very sunny, it was very hot. I could not go outside. Like, I'm a sun bunny, I love the sun. If I would go in the sun, I would break out in full body hives. Head to toe, full body hives. Like bumpy, itchy, red rash all over my body. And I was like, why does this keep happening? And then I looked up the pill. One of the very rare side effects was getting a head to toe sun rash when your skin was exposed to sun. So that was fun. But I literally only took it for like I believe either just under a week or just over a week. Like I did not take it for very long when I got a call from the gynecologist, or rather my mom did, and she called me. She was like, you need to immediately stop taking the pill. And they said that when they got my blood results back, all the things that they were actually testing for were totally fine, thankfully, but something they were completely not looking for came back. And that is that I had low protein S in my liver. I'm not a doctor. I don't know much about this. So I'm just explaining to you what I understand of it and what I know. And then I'll leave some information linked below if you want to explore and learn more on your personal free time. So they said you have low protein S in your liver, which I believe is an enzyme, but it's a protein. It's literally called Protein S. Good job, Molly. So you have low protein S in your liver, and that is a blood clotting risk. And so one of the reasons you're not supposed to take birth control if you smoke cigarettes is because cigarettes increase your risk for blood clots, and so does birth control. So if you're smoking cigarettes and taking birth control, your risk for blood clots goes higher. And so anybody with any form of blood clotting problems cannot take things like birth control. And that's why they're like, you need to immediately stop the use of birth control, and we're going to send you to thrombosis at Sick Kids, which is the blood clinic. And so I went to see a blood specialist, and they did a whole workup on my family's history and all that, and we had no history of blood clots in the fam. My father's sister did pass away of blood cancer when she was 11, leukemia, but there's no history of like blood clots. That's the closest thing to blood problems that have been in my family's history on either side. They determined majority of people who have, so the actual disorder is called Protein S Deficiency Disorder, which is why I had to get checked because I had low levels of Protein S, and then from there they had to go and diagnose me with Protein S Deficiency Disorder. And so there's Protein C, from what I understand, again, this is just me, there's Protein C Deficiency Disorder and there's Protein S Deficiency Disorder. Both are blood clotting disorders. I feel like I have a hair on my face.
It's lavender hair.
Yeah, they're floating all over the place. By the way, we have a whole host of problems with Miss Lavender Pie. If you can check out this video I recently did. Protein C Deficiency Disorder is believed to be 1 in 300 people that have it. And then Protein S Deficiency Disorder, it's believed to be 1 in 20,000 people who have it. So like far more rare than Protein C Deficiency Disorder. Either way, both are, medical conditions that you need to be aware of. And I feel very, very, very blessed that I got diagnosed by complete accident, that they found this anomaly in my genes. It is a genetic condition, so it is passed down from your family. However, the doctor told my mom and I at the appointment that you can also develop it. So most people with Protein S Deficiency Disorder is passed down as a faulty gene from either the mother or the father or both. But in my case, they believe I developed it through the use of birth control. So this is just what I've been told. Again, not a doctor, and I'm certainly not pulling this fact out of nowhere. This is what I was told by a medical professional. They believe that I developed Protein S Deficiency Disorder from using birth control. I would like to say I was on birth control for an entirety of probably just over a month between 2 different pills. That's all. For let's say a maximum of 6 weeks in my life, I have taken a birth control pill.
They only think that there's no proof.
So this is what they believe. They can't, there's no way that, there's nothing they can test, right? To like find out that that's the conclusive way that I got it. That was just one of their hypotheses. Hypotheses? Anyways, that was just one of their kind of like guesses as to how I could have developed this without it being genetic, because they said there has been a link between that. So that's all I can say as to how I potentially got it. I eventually was transferred out of sick kids thrombosis when I was 18 to an adult hospital, which anybody who ever grows up going to a children's hospital knows it's a very sad day when you have to start going to an adult hospital, because it is not the same. I kind of like fell off. So when I went to the adult specialist, they got me custom socks made. So here are kind of some of the things that I was told with Protein S Deficiency Disorder. I was told that I needed to maintain my weight. I should not gain too much weight. And I did touch on this in my weight gain and weight loss stories that I did recently, or like probably like 8 months ago now, I'm not sure. But that is very literally like my Protein S Deficiency Disorder is very much the reason that I chose to lose weight. I was at my highest weight, I was at the top range of healthy for my height. And so at the end of the day, like if I continued to gain weight, I was going to go over the healthy weight range into considered overweight category. I was explicitly told by a medical professional that I should try to maintain my weight and stay at the lower end of my healthy weight range. Because again, just like smoking cigarettes is a high risk for blood clots, birth control, high risk for blood clots, so is weight gain. The heavier you are, the more likely you are to develop a blood clot. That's just the reality. And so I was told I had to maintain my weight. I was not allowed to take birth control. I always need to tell medical professionals that I have Protein S Deficiency Disorder before taking any kind of prescription, because certain medications are higher risk for blood clots. So I always have to make sure that when I'm getting prescribed anything, that they know that I'm high risk for blood clots. When I travel on long flights, I'm supposed to make sure I'm getting up and moving, walking around, again, being stagnant, not moving enough, higher risk for blood clots. I also got custom made compression socks. Now you'll probably see these at like drugstores, like a Walgreens or CVS or Shoppers Drug Mart, London Drug, whatever. Rite Aid. Let me just list all the drugstores in case you don't know the names of them. Good one, Molly. It's very helpful for everyone. So you'll probably see them there, and you kind of think like, oh, like old ladies wear those. But so I basically had those compression socks, but custom made, so much tighter and incredibly hard to get on and incredibly uncomfortable to wear. But they were custom made compression socks that were the same color as my skin, and they went up to my knees. And I'm supposed to wear those on long haul flights, anything over 6 hours. As you guys know, pre-COVID, I spent my life traveling, and honestly was really bad about it. Like I never wore them. I wore them near the beginning of my diagnosis when I was younger, my early 20s, but I kind of just honestly forgot that I had this. And not to say that, like every time I would go to the emergency room for something, I would make sure in my intake form to let them know I have Protein S Deficiency Disorder. Like, it's not that I forgot I had it. I was aware of what things that I should avoid and things that I should look out for and things that I should mention to doctors and like warning signs that I'm getting a blood clot. But I kind of just like forgot that it's like a big deal, that like people die of blood clots and that you should actually like take your health seriously. So I just wasn't wearing my compression socks, which I should do when I start traveling again. I will try my best. You have to drink a lot of water when you're on long haul flights or long haul car rides. Just basically anything that lowers risk of blood clots. A lot of my family members were quite concerned when COVID popped up and the link of COVID deaths and blood clots was starting to arise. Also, I would just like to mention that I feel like I've seen a lot of people over the last year that COVID's been going on be like, oh, well, most people dying have pre-existing conditions. As a way to be like, oh, it's not like I wouldn't die because like it's just people with pre-existing conditions dying and that's not as bad somehow. As somebody with a pre-existing condition, who if I got COVID and passed away from would be considered a category of somebody who died with a pre-existing condition, I would just like to say that number one, lots of people have pre-existing conditions and don't know they have them until they die. So you might have one and not know it. And number two, people with pre-existing conditions are still valid people. Like they're still loved. They still contribute to society. We're still, we still have friends and family and we still have a job and we still have a heart. We're still people. Just because you have a pre-existing condition doesn't mean that you're less than or that like your death doesn't matter as much as somebody who may be healthy or seem more healthy because you just don't know that you have something, or because even if you don't, maybe you have no pre-existing conditions, undiagnosed or not, you're not more important than somebody who has a pre-existing condition. That's all. Again, this is just from my understanding. The reason that people with COVID are dying from blood clots is specifically because the level of Protein S in their liver drops. And I already have a deficiency of my Protein S. I have a mild case. Majority of Protein S Deficiency Disorder is mild. It's far more rare to be severe. Most people are mild, and I'm very thankful to be a mild case. But nonetheless, it is something that I know, like, particularly over this last year of my life with COVID, like I've needed to be more aware of. And I literally read this article from a thrombosis doctor just the other day that was like, if you have Protein S or Protein C deficiency disorder, my biggest recommendation during COVID is don't get it. And I was like, oh, that's reassuring. And I think the reality is like, if I were to get COVID, because I am already high risk for blood clots, and because in particular young people who are dying from COVID, it tends to be blood clots due to the Protein S levels dropping, I would have to most likely get a shot of a blood thinner in my stomach every day throughout my COVID. I have had that once before in my life. I went to the ER in my early 20s with chest pain on my left side, and they thought I potentially had a blood clot in my lung. So I did get a long skinny needle in the stomach of a blood thinner. It's like a burning pain, and then it just goes. It's not a big deal. But I would most likely, if I got COVID, that would be something I'd immediately disclose that I have Protein S Deficiency Disorder, and they would most likely have me go get blood thinner shots every day to try to stop any increased risk. Like, this really popped up in my mind the other day when the Johnsson vaccine was recalled for blood clots in women 18 to 48. And one has passed away and one is in critical condition. Obviously, it's only 6 women. In the grand scheme is a small number, but those 6 people matter. And I can't help but wonder if any of them were living with Protein S Deficiency Disorder and didn't know it. And how lucky I am to have accidentally been diagnosed, because it means that when I get my vaccine, I let them know. And the AstraZeneca vaccine also causes blood clots, has been found to cause blood clots. So it's really scary to have this disorder and know that right now, of all times, if I get COVID, I'm at extremely high risk to pass away from a blood clot. And if I get a vaccine, what was once said to be safe has been recalled for blood clots. And so it's this really precarious place to be living right now. That said, I am choosing to get a vaccine. I have a note from my doctor that states that I cannot get the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Where I live, they are still currently giving the J&J vaccine. The AstraZeneca they're still giving, but only to over 60, so I wouldn't be getting that anyways. but they are, so yeah, I have a medical note. Actually, by the time you're seeing this, it's Tuesday. I got my first shot yesterday. I don't know if I got Pfizer or Moderna, but I got Pfizer or Moderna yesterday. So please send me good vibes. Please send me all your good vibes, okay? Because again, I am the person who gets all the side effects. So I'm definitely nervous, but I know that it's the right thing to do because the risk for me getting COVID is just too high. And that's why I'm able to get my vaccine earlier than a lot of people my age, because I'm considered medically extremely vulnerable. That's the category I fall under. So I have already gotten it by the time you're seeing this, but I have not yet, and I'm nervous. So hopefully it goes well. But I'm, number one, I'm grateful, like I said, that I was accidentally diagnosed with this, so I know. And that I'm not somebody who's living with this in my body, because many people don't know. Many people have things that they don't know about. Many people have underlying conditions that go undiagnosed until they pass away, or until something serious happens. So I'm really lucky. And number two, I'm grateful that just days before I'm getting my vaccine, there was a link drawn between J&J and blood clots, because who knows, like if that hadn't come to light just days before me going to get my vaccine, I might have been given that vaccine. I might have not gotten a medical note that exempts me from getting that. So I feel very grateful. I feel like God is looking on me and it's a sign that it's going to be okay. I'm also getting a full blood panel on Saturday, so in 2 days. Today's Thursday for me. I'm getting a full panel done to check my liver enzymes and just track like all my blood counts right now, because like I said, honestly, like having anxiety and PTSD and being blind and all of these other things that like affect me very regularly on a daily basis, like it's easy for me to focus on those parts of my health and kind of just like push this other thing off, because I've never gotten a blood clot. So I don't really like think about it. And so I haven't gotten checked in a long time, which I should have, but I haven't. So I'm getting that on Saturday, and honestly, just like hearing about these blood clots has like kicked my butt and like got me back into gear and been like, you know what, like you're lucky to know you have this. You should do everything you can to prevent yourself from getting a clot. Specifically, the types of clots that I'm at higher risk for are DVT, which is deep vein thrombosis, which is clots in the deep veins in your arms and legs, though you can also get clots in lungs, as well as, oh my God, what's the other one? It's really common. Well, not really common. It's like embolism, something embolism. I'll write it right here. Something embolism. That's really all I wanted to share. Just be grateful for your health every single day. Be grateful for what you have every single day, because you never know when something could happen. We are all so blessed to just have today. So tell somebody that you love them today. Mom, I love you.
I love you too, Molly.
Lavender Gallop, much love.
We love you.
Much
love
love.
you, babies.
And I love all of you, and I appreciate you being in my life on this wild, wacky journey that is Molly Burke's life. If you are interested in more Molly in your life, then you can click this video right here to watch 9 times that I've missed out on things because I'm blind. Oh, I'm getting hiccups from the tea. Or you can click over here and see you, my followers, control my life for 24 hours, okay? See you next time. Have a beautiful, wonderful day.